Hey, good evening. Welcome. I'm glad you could be here. I hope you didn't have a hard time finding a seat, because for those of you online, we have a few brave, intrepid souls, probably true Colorado or Alaskan natives who have made it, who decided to come out in the cold. So thank you for being here, and thank you for joining us. Tonight, we're going to be continuing a three-part series on intentions that Dr. Michelle set last week. Last week, she talked about anchoring our intentions and having being pure in our motives, having a clear why, and being willing to face whatever arises that is unlike our intention. And if you've had the experience, you set an intention and all this other stuff shows up. So we're going to dive deeper into that tonight. But first, we have a very special musical guest with us. She's sung here a number of times. I, in particular, remember a interfaith service we had on the Kabbalah, on mystical Judaism, where she was present and sang. And she simply has an amazing, beautiful voice and a phenomenal heart. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you will join me in welcoming Laura Berman.
Good evening. This is my first Wednesday service in this new format, so I'm excited to be here, sing, and share a little bit about me. So let's get ready. Ooh, yeah. If you feel comfortable, sing with me. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. That's the whole part. We'll sing that again later. People get ready. There's a train to Jordan. Don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear those diesels hum. And don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. Here we go. Do 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 do. Online too, I see you. Sing with us. Do 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 do. In one voice, yeah. Do 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 do. Yeah, yeah. Do 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 do. Yeah. People get ready. There's a train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. I know faith is the key. Open the doors and board them. There's room for all among the love the most. Yeah. Do 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 do. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do 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 do. We're gonna get ready. We're gonna get ready. Do 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 do. Yeah, oh, hey, yeah. Well, there ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those whose chances are thinner, 'cause there's no hiding place from the kingdom's throne. Oh, people get ready. There's a train to Jordan. Oh, don't need no baggage. You just get on board. All you need is faith to hear those diesels humming. Don't need no ticket. Just thank the Lord. Yeah. Gonna thank. Thank the Lord, I thank my God, I thank this loving me. gonna get ready. Ooh, people, come on board. We're gonna get ready and thank the Lord, thank God, just thank the Lord. Thank you. Wow, we're getting ready. So, my name is Laura Berman, as you know, and I have sung on this Mile High stage many times. I lived in New York, and I lived in Oregon, and I would fly in. And about a year ago, I had this call to Colorado, and I couldn't explain it. And I've been in this New Thought movement for a couple of decades. And there was no rhyme or reason. I had to come here, and I said, oh, that's that spirit in me that I've been singing about for a couple of decades. And I'm so glad I listened. I moved here. I'm in Evergreen, and I moved here in September. And I'm so grateful to be here and play with these guys more and more often. And it's family to me here. So the next song we're going to share is an original song I wrote. It's called Come As You Are, and as I get older and older, I really stand firmly in that for all of us, no matter where you were a minute ago, what happened 10 years ago, all are welcome. It should be welcome in our world, no matter where you've been, where you've come from, so this is a tribute to that. This is called Come As You Are. So this is for all of us showing up tonight as we are, without judgment.
1, 2, 3.
Shadows and victory, wrapped up in history. I am more than the skin I am in. I am more. Triumph and dignity make for a mystery. We are more than the skin we are in. We are more, much more. And I will join you there. We all come from somewhere. Eyes that see know all is there. We all come from somewhere. Come as you are. Come as you are. Every living soul has traveled far. Come as you are. Heartache and tragedy, they're calls that deliver me. I am more than the skin I am in. I am more. All is fair. We all come from somewhere. Come as you are. Yeah. Come as you are. Every living soul has traveled far. Yeah. Come as you are. Come from somewhere, we come from somewhere.
Just so grateful to be here. So tonight we're talking about, Reverend Simon is talking about intentions, and this next song I chose speaks to the power of our word. And a little background on me. So I got started at a Science of Mind Center in Morristown, New Jersey, close to 20 years ago. I was a singer-songwriter and a vocalist in New York City, and a friend of mine said, she had to go on the road, and she said, could you do this Sunday morning for me? Everyone's really nice. And of course, and we'll support you and listen. And I said, sure. And it was my introduction to New Thought and Science of Mind. And during all of about 4 years in this community in New Jersey, I wrote a lot of music for events for a 7-week series called Adventures in Faith, and all sorts of practitioner events, and had since learned that having a deadline is extremely helpful for finishing a song. And so this song was written around the power of our word and those intentions that we set using our word. So this is called When I Speak. Hope you enjoy it. My word can move my soul where I can't imagine, but it is happening. One turn straight down that road could open up the door to so much more. I've been wasting my dreams on hours I sleep, but this time I believe words are worth saying, dreams are worth claiming. Now hear me when I speak. My fear, it is not real. No, it's not real. It's just another lie, and it cuts me down to size. And I'm here for the very first time. I'm here, like I am born again, and the world is opening. I've been wasting my dreams on hours I sleep, but this time I believe, God, I believe that words are worth saying, dreams are worth claiming. Now hear me when I speak, hear me. It's the only voice that has changed my life, has changed my life, oh yeah. And it declares that happiness is my right, it's my right. My word can move my soul, it moves my soul where I can't imagine, but it is happening. I've been wasting my dreams on hours that I sleep, but this time I believe that words are worth saying, dreams are worth claiming. Now hear me
Laura Berman, did I tell you she was awesome? Yes. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for your gifts and talents. Thank you, iPad, in advance for coming on. Let's see if you do. Praise God. Woo. I'll share a little secret with you. That's I don't know about every speaker's, but every minister's. If you use an iPad, there's always that moment of, please, God. Oh, thank you. All right, so we're talking about intentions. I want to share with you. Can I share? No, I'm not going to ask you, because I'm just going to do it. I want to share with you my favorite thing, my favorite example of intentions. Okay, I gotta get something out of here. Okay. So, this is where you are in your life overall or in some particular aspect of your life. This is where you are. This is an intention. It's where you want to be. Setting an intention, presumably you want to move from point A to point B. Well, this is a rubber band. When we set an intention, when we stretch, pardon the pun, when we set an intention, we put ourselves in tension. When we set an intention, we put ourselves in tension. We are also at risk of putting an eye out if we're not careful. So, no, I'm joking. And this tends to not be comfortable because there's a dissonance, right? There's how I am, how I'm showing up in life, who I am, how I see myself, how everybody around me sees myself. And there's this thing I want to achieve, this thing I want to become, right? Something new, some kind of change. And there's a dissonance between those two things, especially, again, a pun, if I'm really stretching, if there's a lot of distance between who I am now, how I see myself now, and the thing it is I'm wanting to become, that I'm wanting to bring forth into expression. There's a tension there. Now, we might experience that in a different way, but this tends to not be comfortable. I actually liken it to a form of suffering. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, because suffering you might feel is too strong of a word, but we'll talk about that. Here's the thing, my being, my essence, that which I am, I want to resolve this intention, this tension. Trust me, I do right now. It's a lot of work to do this. It's a great arm work. I should probably do this to get, both sides, but I'm not. We'll stick with one side. I want to resolve this dissonance, this discrepancy, this tension, and that will happen one of two ways. Either I'll give up on my intention. I'll convince myself, it's too hard, it's too much, I'm too old, I'm not old enough, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, look at the economy, what will people think of me, whatever it is. And all of those thoughts, it's like Dr. Michelle talked about last week, when we start all this stuff that comes up, or if our motivation isn't pure, if we're doing something for, the wrong reasons, if we don't have a strong why, all of those thoughts that are not consistent with my intention, it's like this is a stake, and I'm just pounding this stake in, I'm staying stuck, and this tension will be resolved. I will get pulled back into that which I am. I'll just stay the same. No change, or very little change. That's one way of resolving it. The other way is I pound this stake in. I solidify this through my attention on my intention, through my prayer work, my meditation, through all of the work, and we're going to talk about all of the work that we can do to pound this stake in, to become identified with our intention and to ultimately embody our intention. Then what happens is we get pulled, sometimes gracefully, sometimes kicking and screaming, but we get pulled into our intention. We become, we achieve, we attain that which we had intended. Okay, let's talk about this. I said this was suffering. Well, that's kind of suffering. That's a harsh word, suffering, really. We don't talk a lot about suffering in religious science. We tend not to be a suffering-focused people, which is good, trust me. But this is not comfortable. Now, often, maybe it's a Western mind thing. I don't know what it is, cultural thing, but we tend, suffering sounds very heavy. Well, in Buddhism, suffering is, it's part of it's escaping me, the four principles, anybody, Thomas, Dan? The Four Noble Truths. First one is life. Yes, thank you. Life is suffering. Now, when I heard that, when I was studying Buddhism, I'm like, life is suffering? Man, that's kind of negative. What's up with that? Life is suffering. And then I had a Buddhist teacher explain it to me that suffering is kind of a wide label. Right? So suffering on one hand can be existential crisis. Oh my God, the dark night of the soul. I can't stand this another day. Help me. It can be that. But it can be everything all the way over to meh. How's life? How's your job? It's okay. How's that relationship you're in? No, it's fine. A little bit of irritation, a little bit of annoyance, a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of dis-ease, and we just sort of carry that around with us. That's what's meant by life is suffering. There's always that aspect. Often the way it shows up, if we wanted to categorize it, is, I'm wanting something. That's not a bad thing. Desire, wanting, that's not bad. Unless we perceive it as being bad, unless we perceive it as lack and limitation and, I wish I could, but I can't, and, maybe I'll never get it. And so we want that thing, or we achieve something. I got my new job, it's awesome. Oh my God, what if something goes wrong? What if it doesn't work out? And so now we cling to it, right? We have these attachments. We're attached to things, and we're probably going to suffer because everything continually changes. If I'm attached to a situation being a certain way, it's gonna change at some point. And if I'm fighting that, it's a form of suffering. Or there's something that I don't want to experience, right? Oh my God, my boss wants to talk to me this Friday. Oh boy, I don't know what that could be about. Oh my gosh, I met this new person. What happens if something doesn't go right? What happens if the economy tanks and all my stocks? So there's these things we're averse to that we're trying to put away. Bottom line, life is full of this stuff that causes us some degree of suffering, angst, anxiety, whatever words you want to use. Now, Holmes said an interesting thing. I'm going to hang this somewhere. I don't think I need it anymore, and I don't want to keep doing that. That's weird. So here's what Holmes said. Holmes said about suffering, since we're talking about suffering, Holmes said, we have learned all we can from suffering. I don't know if I agree with him. Lightning didn't strike. Whew, thank God. I'm not sure exactly what he meant. If he meant that there is no part of God, there is no part of our nature that demands, that requires our suffering, then absolutely agree with that. There's not some great big daddy sky God who's up there going, hey, you know what, I think you need to suffer a little bit. No, I don't believe in that. No suffering. Now, if he meant, though, that we can't learn from suffering, that suffering can't be a teacher, then I got to disagree with him. Suffering is an awesome teacher. I hate to say it that way, but it really is. In particular, suffering is a great teacher in two ways. It's a great gift. Suffering is a great motivator. I got to believe we've all experienced it, right? Something's not right, something's not clicking, and we tolerate it, and we put up with it, and we go with the flow, and we get along, and we accommodate until we've had it. For some, maybe that's a dark night of the soul. I can't take this anymore. Or if nothing else, it's that little nagging something that gets our attention. I could say pain is a friend. Now, no, I'm not a masochist, but pain, the purpose of pain is to get our attention and say, hey, wow, I just stepped on a nail. That's probably not working for me. So suffering, pain, discomfort brings our attention. It has that quality. It provides that gift. Also, suffering is great for providing clarity. I would argue that you will never be as clear about what you want except when you are in the midst of what you don't want. Does that mean you have to suffer to have clarity? No, not at all. But if you are suffering, there is a phenomenal opportunity to say, what would be 180 degrees from this? What would be the opposite from this? I don't like my job. I'm struggling with my job. No, Josh and Michelle, I love my job. Hypothetical situation. I don't like my job. I got to do something about my job. Okay, well, why don't you like your job? Well, my boss is always yelling at me. My boss is always, second guessing me. Okay, what would be 180 degrees from that? Well, I'd be working in a place with a boss and coworkers who appreciated my work, where I felt I was making a valued contribution. Okay, awesome, great. Oh, my body's in pain all the time. Okay, what would 180 degrees of that be? Well, my body not in pain, a body that's functioning, that I can function with grace and ease and joy and energy and vitality. Awesome, great. Just lost my job. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm afraid of running out of money. Well, what's 180 degrees from that? Well, I have a job that supports me. All my security issues around prosperity and finance and abundance are met. I have money to share and spare and support others with. Awesome, great, clarity. When you are in the midst of something you don't want, suffering can provide clarity. That tension can provide the clarity to pull you into your intention. Now, around here, we talk about inner work, right? We focus on the inner work. So let's talk about that. Dr. Ernest Holmes said the whole purpose of the science of mind and spirit, and generally when the founder of your teaching says something like the whole purpose, that's a good thing to pay attention to. So here it is. The whole purpose of science of mind and spirit is to reconcile the seeming discrepancy, the seeming difference between the spiritual world, which must be perfect, and the material world, which appears imperfect. Discrepancy, tension, realizing the discrepancy, the seeming discrepancy. Okay, interesting. So I could say that really, when we set an intention, we are bringing the spiritual, our intention, what we are doing is to bring spiritual perfection, some sort of spiritual quality, God quality, some sort of ideal into form, into our experience. That's what we do, and that's what we teach here. How to demonstrate, how to create, how to manifest spiritual principle into form, into our life. Dr. Michelle last week talked about embodying that. So really, I would suggest to you that our work here is to embody spiritual principle. Dr. Holmes used to say, demonstrate spiritual principle. All right, so what's this thing with spiritual principle? I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about those things that we consider truths, those things that we consider ideals, right? Abundance, prosperity, beauty, harmony. There's a perfect pattern of health, wellness, wholeness, compassion. These types of big ideals that we are desiring to manifest and experience in our life. Dr. Holmes said that this teaching does not promise that you can have anything and everything you want. What it does promise is that through the application or through aligning with spiritual principle, you can bring about greater possibilities and happier conditions in your life. By aligning with spiritual principle, we can bring about possibility and happier conditions, situations, experiences. Awesome. How does that mesh with intention setting? We tend to focus on what Dr. Holmes called the mental equivalent, right? The mental piece. We have a saying, everything is twice created. First in mind, and then in form, right? Thoughts are like seeds that take form, that take root, and then they blossom in our lives, right? So that's what we tend to work with the mental principle. But like Dr. Michelle said last week, it's not just a head thing. It's not just about the mind. We're not saying that you should just sit down and, visualize, mentally create the perfect life, and then wait for it to show up at your doorstep. That can happen, but I want to talk to you tonight about a life hack or an intention hack, right? A little tip and trick. Tips and tricks? I don't know if there's multiple. There may only be one. We'll see. To energize, to really get this thing going with intention setting. And what I'm proposing to you is that you can't just work on the mental level. Great place to start, but we don't end there. We don't only focus in there. If we really want to bring forth spiritual principle, to demonstrate that in our life, we have to get in alignment. So we start with spiritual principle. Let's say I want a greater level of health and wellness in my life, right? So I focus on that spiritual principle, that there is a perfect pattern of health and wellness that exists, that each of us in that spiritual ideal are already whole and perfect. Right? We often experience it like the body knows how to heal itself. The body knows how to take care of itself. Now, we might experience dis-ease or illness, but there is that spiritual principle of wholeness, wellness, right functioning, alignment, the perfection of the body temple, the body vessel. So we start there. We align that. Then how does that show up in my life? I move it down to the mental level, right? I create what Holmes called a mental equivalent. I have my spiritual equivalent, my spiritual principle. I align that with my mental equivalent. How would this show up in my life? How would health and wellness show up in my life? Well, gosh, I want to have this certain, whatever is important to me, this certain body mass index ratio. I want to weigh this amount. I want to be able to lift this amount of weight. I want to have an experience of vitality and energy. I want to wake up in the morning feeling refreshed, etc., right? We build in our mind, we create a blueprint in our mind of what that principle of perfect body, temple, right functioning, and wholeness looks like. What does that look like for me? That's my mental equivalent. Then I have to align on the emotional plane, right? The emotional equivalent. Dr. Holmes didn't use the term emotional equivalent. He used the term conviction, right? We have to approach this with conviction. We talked about prayer. Prayer is a way of using this process of getting an alignment. And he said it's never just the words, which would tend to be more of the mental equivalent. It's the conviction. It's the passion, it's the energy. I would suggest to you that if we used an analogy of driving a car, like if I have an intention to go to California, the route I'm going to take, the roads and the turnoffs and the mileage and all that stuff, that's like the mental equivalent, right? That's my mental stuff. But stepping on the gas, and that's my steering, right? I'm going to steer. The steering would relate to my mental equivalent. But stepping on the gas, that's my emotional equivalent. That's my conviction, right? So to align with my mental equivalent, how is it going to feel when I've achieved this? When I'm expressing the physical health and wholeness that I desire, that is my intention, how will that feel? I mean, I imagine, I feel and waking up in the morning refreshed. I look at the various tasks, the thing I have to do in my life, and I have all the strength I need. My body functions perfectly with grace and ease. There's no pain, etc., etc. So I am showing up. I'm having the feeling, the experience in my body that is aligned with my intention. But I don't stop there, right? Because we're bringing spiritual principle into form. So I don't stop there. What are my actions? What are my behaviors? And can I intentionally, mindfully align them with my intention and that spiritual principle? So what might that look like? Well, if I want health and wellness and vital energy and that kind of experience, and I'm drinking a 6-pack of beer a day, probably not in alignment. It could be. I mean, it's possible. There are these outliers, these miracle things that happen, but probably not. And if I just hate exercise. Now, do I have to exercise or follow a certain exercise program, a certain diet to express wellness and wholeness? No. But there might be value in looking at that component, what I'm calling the physical equivalent. What actions and behaviors can I mindfully and intentionally take to sort of jumpstart the process? Right? If you've ever used a pump, sometimes you got to prime the pump, you got to get things flowing. I would argue that getting your behaviors and actions in alignment with your intention, getting all of those things lined up, primes the pump. Get things moving. Right? You've heard this before. Act as if. I haven't manifested it yet, right? I might still be working on the mental equivalent. I might still be working on how is this going to feel. I do my best to act as if. And once I do that, once I get everything in alignment, things start happening. Not that they couldn't happen before, but they can really start happening. Right? I've removed some of the resistance. I've moved some of the obstacles. I've brought everything into alignment. Now, so I want to focus a little bit on that last piece, because often in religious science, we get this weird thing about, like being and like doing is somehow bad, and we're just supposed to be. I don't think that's true. God can be pretty good without us. Right? God was being, I would argue, before there was ever a manifest physical realm, God was being just fine. This is a realm of doing. And by that I mean manifesting into form, expressing and experiencing, demonstrating, the word Holmes used, spiritual principle. We are to become the living embodiment of spiritual principle. And that tends to require, or at least be facilitated by action, by doing. So do not turn doing and being into antagonistic forces that we have to choose against. Rather, I would say they are two sides of the same coin. We often begin with being, spiritual principle, and we end up in doing, embodiment, manifestation, demonstration, carrying out that intention. I've been reading a book lately called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Awesome book, really good book. We don't have time to go in depth in that tonight. In fact, it probably deserves its own series. It's a really good book. But what I want to suggest, this idea, is one of the ways you can hack, speed up potentially, or introduce more grace into your intention setting, more ease and grace, is aligning your habits and your behavior. And a great way to do that is through habit. Great way to align your actions and your behavior through habit. Now, when I say habit, I mean actions that we take consistently that are intentional and are aligned with our intention. So we're mindful about it. I don't mean just sort of the rote, go to sleep, I'm not even paying attention, I'm just responding to life. No, I mean really being intentional about it. Yes, getting up every morning to go to the gym is aligned with my intention of having a healthy, vital, well-functioning body. So I am going to begin to take that action. Oh my gosh, I'm having trouble with my partner. We're not. My wife is in the audience. This is hypothetical. Another hypothetical example. Gosh, you know what? As I think about it, my communication stinks. It's not really working. The current way I communicate is not aligned with the mental equivalent. It's not aligned with the spiritual principle of harmony and compassion and understanding and tolerance. It's not aligned with how I show up, and I'm short and grumpy, and it's not aligned. It doesn't make me feel good. I want to oh my God, I want to be energized and feel a connection. So you know what? Maybe I should take a communication class. Maybe I should do some counseling. I don't want to see you nodding. Okay, my wife is not nodding. Phew, good. She's like, yeah, you should. I'm going to tell you, really. So that, that's how we can jumpstart this, right? And we start to create habits. Meditation, we talk about meditation all the time. Prayer work, that's some of the key inner work that we do and we teach here. Do you do it consistently? Create a habit where it just becomes, this is the thing you do. Because one of the beauties of habits, we have a certain amount of energy to give to our lives, to the various things in our lives. One of the beauties that James Clear talks about in his book with habits is there are ways that we can engage with our life that become more efficient, potentially. They lessen the energy requirement, right? Like if I know that I'm getting up every morning at 8 o'clock and I'm meditating, then that's just what I do. And once it becomes a habit, it becomes easier, right? There's less resistance to doing something else. And I don't have to think every morning, oh God, should I get up and meditate? I don't know if I really want to, because then the excuses happen and all this counterproductive stuff happens. No, once I have a habit of meditating, it becomes easy. Once I learn those communication skills and I practice them so I don't have to think about them anymore, they become habitualized, I now communicate at a new level. I now function in a way which is more aligned with my intention. Because here's the thing. It's rare that something just manifests. It could happen. It could happen that way. You have the story about walking through the garden, stubbing your toe, boom, enlightenment. But here's the thing. When something just manifests in your life, you get that new job out of the blue, you win the lottery, whatever, something drops into your life. Oh my God, how did this happen? This is so wonderful. I would argue that probably you are seeing the acute demonstration of the chronic work that you have been doing. It's my experience that we often hold these beliefs, we set these intentions, we have something we're holding on to that we are calling forth, and we do the work. We work on the resistances, we're grateful, we forgive where we need to. We're doing the inner work. And it may not seem like anything's happening, but that action that we're taking is preparing the field, is making the way. And then it pops in. It's kind of like when you plant a seed, right? I plant a seed, into the soil it goes, I cover it up. It doesn't seem like nothing's happening. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, nothing is happening. Why is my seed not growing? Unbeknownst to me, it is, I don't know if I said that right, I don't care, whatever. It's germinating. Right? That shell, that covering is cracking. It's expanding. Roots are going down in the soil. It looks like nothing is happening, but it is. And what I want to suggest to you is when you start acting as if, when you align your behavior, your physical equivalent, your physical way of being, with that which you are intending and desiring, even if it feels phony, you are doing that underground work. You are doing the prep work. You are setting yourself up for it just happening one day. And it's the benefit. You are receiving the benefit of all the work you have been doing. It's kind of like, when we align our habits, it's like polishing a stone or polishing a piece of glass, right? Imagine a piece of glass just covered in soot and dirt, and we polish and nothing's happening. But over time, as we do that work, as we exert that effort, right? We have the mental equivalent. We know what we want. We want clear glass. We want the light to be able to shine through. And we do the work. And possibly, sometimes quick, but often slowly but surely, that glass clears and the light can shine through more and more. That is aligning our actions with our intentions. There's another benefit in habits. It's been my experience that consistent, repetitive action, even small, consistent, repetitive action tends to triumph over one-time efforts. I would rather you, as a minister, I would rather you meditate as best you can, as devotedly as you can, every day for 15 minutes than once a year to go off for a week-long silent retreat. Now, we're all at different places, and you may get something very special from that week-long silent retreat. But we tend to overestimate what can happen in the short term and underestimate what can happen in the long term with repetitive effort. Here's an interesting example. How many, show of hands, you can be honest with me, think you probably, on an average, waste at least an hour a day? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, praise God. You at home, I can't see you, but I know what you're doing. You're raising your hand like this. So yeah, we probably waste an hour a day. Now, maybe that's not a waste. Maybe it's a great, you get a long day, tired, you come home, plop in front of the TV. Maybe that's not a waste for you. Maybe that rejuvenates you, and that would be a waste for me, but whatever. But we probably all waste time. Here's the thing. Imagine this. You've got an intention, something you want to manifest in your life, something you want to see different. You're going to work on it 1 hour a day, every day, for a year. You do that, at the end of the year, you will have put in 365 hours of effort. If we take just our average 40-hour work week, if we use that as an example, so I take 365 hours, I divide that by 40, I get a little bit over 9 40-hour work weeks. That's like 2 months and a day. Imagine if you worked on something 40 hours a week for 9 plus a little bit more weeks. What do you think you could achieve? That is the same amount of time as an hour a day. Now, if I said, hey, here's your intention, I want you for the next 9 weeks to go work on it, you'd probably be like, dude, I can't do that. I got a job, I got a family, I can't do that. Yeah, you can. Hour a day, every day for a year. You will have achieved the same thing. Try it. See what you can achieve. Okay, so here is your homework. I want to sum this up. Here's your homework, if you're game. Where are you suffering in your life right now? And if you don't like that word, oh, Reverend Simon, I'm New Thought, and that word is a little harsh, it seems negative to me, I want a more happy, pleasant word. Okay, where are things not working out for you? Where would you like some improvement in your life? Where is a little bit of a pain point? Where could your life be better? Pick that thing, pick that place. What would 180 degrees of that be? Whatever it is, really call out, this is not working for me. I would like this to be different. And don't get into what we sometimes do in New Thought where we're like, oh, I don't want to give that any attention. No, acknowledge it, call it out, right? Ernest Holmes said, we meet the client where they're at, and often we're the client. So meet yourself where you're at. Where are you suffering? What would you like to be different? What's 180 degrees from that? Okay, what is the spiritual principle? What's the spiritual principle associated with that? So again, let's say, gosh, I really don't like the way my body feels. I don't like my body image. I wish I was stronger. I want greater health and vitality. I'm getting older. I feel it slipping away. I want to counteract that. Okay, so what is the spiritual principle? Well, the spiritual principle would say there is a pattern of perfect health, wellness, and wholeness, right? There is a pattern. There's an ideal for a human body functioning in right alignment, right action, right assimilation, right elimination, right? This isn't rocket science. That may show up differently for different people, but there is this idea of physical perfection, whatever that means, right functioning, right working, the way this body functions and works and operates, and a feeling of joy. There is that ideal that we can conceive of. How would that look in my life? What is the mental equivalent? How would that show up for me? And I fill in the blanks, right? The work that I have to do, I could do that work I'd have all the strength I need. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd feel vital, I'd feel energy. I love to go hiking and climbing and kayaking, so I'd have the energy to do those things. I'd have the time to do those things. I create that mental equivalent, that mental ideal. Okay, what's the emotional equivalent? How will I feel when I'm doing that, right? Oh my God, I'd love to wake up in the morning just energized and ready for a new day. I'd love to be out on the water, kayaking, and having the skills and the strength I need to do that. I'd love to be all the stuff I got to do at home, all the yard work, all the gardening, all that stuff. I'd love to have the strength to do that, and my body's functioning with grace and ease, and no back pain, everything's in perfect alignment. Awesome. I really embrace that feeling. And ideally, I get myself worked up with that. I feel it to the best of my ability. I embody that feeling. And then, what are the behaviors? What are the actions? What are the habits that right now I can do to bring myself in alignment that support that? All right, and I might come up with, well, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to change my diet, what diet calls to me, et cetera, et cetera. All those actions that show up in my awareness that I feel would support that intention. When I do that, when I am aligned that way, things can happen really quick. I want to kind of leave you with this little example. Imagine a couple that wants to have a baby, right? They're planning on having a baby. The odds are pretty good. They're going to take some action to prepare for that baby. It's not like they're going to be, oh, you're pregnant? Okay, well, let's see what happens in 9 months. Oh my gosh, the baby's here. Ooh, what do we do? Oh my God, I didn't expect that. How did this happen? No, right? What's the number one thing that folks do, often couples do, when they're bringing a baby in? The nursery. They prepare the nursery. Oh, we're going to paint the walls blue or pink or yellow, whatever. We're going to be off. We're going to paint it chartreuse green. We're going to break the mold, whatever. We're going to get the crib. We're going to get this. They create a space, right? They create a space in which to receive and welcome that newborn. That is the takeaway from this talk. Whatever your intentions are, I am advising you to create the container through your actions to create a nursery where you can welcome your newborn intentions. That is aligning with spiritual principle, and that is acting as if. Let's pray. God is. God, known by many names, that power, that presence, that consciousness, that intelligence that exists beyond names, God is. The divine is. The one source is. The infinite intelligence is. And in this moment, I align with this one source. Right where I am, right where we are, God is. And so I enter into this place knowing that at the soul level, there are those ways in which I am being called to show up. I am being asked to become something. There is that which I, you, we have come here to achieve, to experience, to express, to become. And so let us, in our own way, whatever way is right, let us become aware of that intention. Let us become aware of that thing we are desiring to be. Whether it is from a sense of wanting to have a happier, better life, or whether it's simply from a sense of expressing all of the goodness, all of the wholeness, all of the completeness that is desiring to make itself known through and as me. I align with that. I create the mental equivalent for that. And from that mental equivalent, I feel. I let my passions and my convictions fuel that mental equivalent, drive it forward, bring it forth into form. I feel what the joy, the happiness, the wholeness that is aligned with my intention, that is ushered in by my intention. And I embody that. I express that in my actions, my behaviors. Even if my intention has not fully manifested, I am aligned with those behaviors and actions that feel congruent. We're able to act as if, as we align with our intention. And so I give great thanks to know whatever it is, whatever is calling me, whatever the seed is within my heart, I'm grateful to know that it is already fulfilled within the mind of God. And right now, it is working its way to become embodied, to become expressed and experienced in, through, around, and as my life, your life. I give thanks to know that this word is already fulfilled. And as such, I release it into the creative process and I claim that it is done. And so it is. Oh, I'm facing the wrong way. You never know what happens when you... I should have set an intention before this talk that my tape would stay. If you've noticed, the thing is like ready to fly and be free. So I should have set an intention for that. Now is the time for our offering. And I just want to say thank you for all the ways. Thank you for all the ways in which you have so graciously continued to support this community. I do believe that the work we all do here, not just us ministers, but all of us, is important. It matters. Because I believe that the work we do here is aligned with something greater that is wanting to be expressed. Well, that was weird. The lights just... Yes, there is an abundance of everything except light. We've used that all up tonight. Oh, no, it's back. Yay, praise God. If, again, thank you for all the ways in which you support this community. If you're called tonight to support financially, there are a number of ways you can do that. I believe we have collection baskets out in the lobby. You can text to give. It is, I want to say, 45888. Whew. You can go to our website. There's a button to donate. And, of course, you can always send a physical check-in. Again, thank you so much. If it calls to you, you can hold that tithe over your heart or hold the intention of it in your mind. I simply give thanks for all the abundance that is expressing in all the various ways in our lives, knowing that we cannot outgive God, knowing that there is an abundance which we can never exhaust, we can never use up. And so grateful for all of the ways in which it flows into our lives. And so it is. Amen. And now, Laura is going to overwhelm us with another song.
Take away my doubts, they only weigh me down. Hide all my don'ts and won'ts so they can't be found. Bottle up my fear and throw it into the sea. And if by chance one day it floats back to me, I'll just laugh out loud and say here and now, I do to a love that knows no reservation. I do to a will that knows no hesitation. I do to a choice with no expectation. No, no. I used to say don't, but now I do. Yes, I do. I do, yeah. Now take away this life I thought was safe and sound. Loosen up these ties that only kept me bound. Shred all my limitations and all my beliefs, and let the confetti fall into the streets. This is my parade, my time to proclaim. I do to love that knows no reservation. I do to will that knows no hesitation. And I do to a choice with no expectation. No, no. I used to say don't, but now I do. Yeah, yeah, I do, I do. And I do to a love that knows no reservation. And I do to a will that knows no hesitation. I do to a choice with no expectation. I do to a dream that knows no limitation. I do to a will that knows no expectation. I do to a high with no intoxication. No, no. I used to say don't, but now I do. I do, I do, I do, I do now. I used to say don't, but now I do. Right here, right now, I do, I do, I do.
Laura Berman, thank you so much for being here. I hope
My pleasure.
many more times. Thank you to our band, thank you to our tech crew, and thank you to you. Those of you who are here physically, you braved the weather. May you have a safe drive home. Thank you, thank you. And those of you who are joining us online, and thank you for the crew who makes it possible for us to stream this service. So a couple of announcements. If you are seeking prayer, whether you're facing an obstacle or a challenge, or you just want to celebrate and reaffirm the good, you just want to pound that stake of your intention into the ground and make it rock solid, you can go to our website, milehighchurch.org/prayer, and we have prayer practitioners. You can put in a prayer request and they will reply to it. They will pray over it. You can do that 24/7. This Sunday, Reverend Josh is continuing the Back to Basics series. And then next Wednesday, Dr. Michelle will be back, and she's going to continue this series, continue and conclude the service on how to keep our intentions moving forward. So, thank you so much. God bless. Take care.
I release and I let go. Let the Spirit run my life. And my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light.
blessings.